Hello and salute everybody. So welcome back. And today I am spending the afternoon with you. The first topic we discussed that it was about worshiping, the power of worshiping and praise. And we talked about the second video was praying for one another. This is the third video today. And I am going to be talking about how we react when you hear bad news, how we react. And I'm going to use some of the examples that I have learned in the Bible that have really transformed the way I see things when something happens to me now, so that I can encourage you in case you are going through something, so I can strengthen you so that you can start seeing things differently. Whenever anything happens to you in life, no matter what it is, you can have a different perspective so that we can have a different way of seeing things going forward. So this video is really is to help you change the way we react, to see a different perspective when things happen to us, the way we act, the importance of, accepting, things that happen to us, even if it is something that we don't like, even if it's something that we don't hope for, or even if it's something that it's not our will. All right. So before we dive into that, welcome back to Chatting with Nicole. If you have not subscribed, do me a favor, subscribe right now, share this video, like, and also check out the rest of the videos. So how do you react when you hear a bad news, when something happens to you? Think about it for a second. So some of us, when we hear a bad news, we start screaming. We start feeling sorry for ourselves. We start feeling angry, disappointed. We call people names. We jump on the call trying to blame somebody. The worst part is we blame God for what happens, and we take it wrongly. Sometimes things happen to us and we refuse to even pray anymore, even go back to church. We get a bad news and we just take it out. We handle it very, very wrongly. We make it, depending on how we react, we make even things worse. Sometimes some people, we are not talking to other people. We have cut people out of our lives because of things that are happening in our lives because we blame them. We always putting blame on either God or somebody. Sometimes we refuse to even forgive ourselves if we feel like whatever had happened is our fault. We made a mistake. So my question today is that I can go on and on and on with examples, but my question today, how do you react when something bad, when you hear terrible news? When you have this report from the doctor saying you have cancer, for example, God forbid, you have this sickness, knowing that you have been working out, you're eating right, you're doing everything necessary to keep yourself healthy, and you just get this news, how do you react when you have this fiance, you met this man, you've been with him, and then you thought that you were about to get married, and then he breaks out with you? How do you react when your son just comes in and say that, oh, something terrible, he did something terrible? How do you react when you hear a terrible news? How do you behave? How do you act? That's what I was going to discuss. If you watch my previous video, I was using Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, and I was reading Nehemiah 1, what had happened when Nehemiah heard that Jerusalem was burned down. God's people were burned down, were, really in trouble. And Nehemiah prayed for them. As I was saying that, this came to me that there was a different side that I wanted to use. So as I was talking to you, the behavior of Nehemiah, the way he reacted, made me come back so that we can discuss, we can talk about this. So this was not planned. I just got this. It came to me while we were talking about Nehemiah. So that's why I want to use the example, the way Nehemiah behaved, the way Nehemiah took his terrible news, the way he handled it. That's what I want to use this part for us to strengthen us, to change our mentality, to change the way we think, the way we receive we receive bad news, the way we react to bad news, the way we react to things that happens in our lives. Okay, so we're going to go slowly here. So Nehemiah 1, you're still going to read the whole Nehemiah 1. So in the book of Nehemiah 1, Nehemiah said, we're going to start in verse 4. He said, and it came to pass when I heard these words that I sat down and wept. The news that, Jerusalem was burned down, his people, that there was a terrible thing happening to God's children. He said when he heard, the first thing he did was, he said he sat down and wept and mourned for certain days. First he sat down, and then he wept, and he mourned for days, which is normal. You just heard, God forbid, your mother died, your child died, you lost a job, something terrible happened, a terrible accident. This, you have cancer, you have this, you just hear this terrible news. It's okay to sit down. It's okay to weep, to cry. It's okay to mourn. It's normal. When something terrible happens to us, it's normal for us to mourn. It's normal for us to cry. Because remember, there's a good way of crying to God. There's a bad way of crying to God. There's a negative way of crying to God and positive way of crying to God. So it's okay for us to sit down, take a step back. It's okay for us to weep, to cry. It's okay for us to mourn for days. Right? So that's fine. That's just human. It's okay. Now, the next part is what is interesting. The next part, he said, and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. You see? The next part is what we need to get to. Because most of us do not get to the next part. We don't do the next part. We mourn, we wept, we weep, we scream, we react, we do all this craziness. We scream, we blame, and we hold grudges, and we refuse to go back to church again. We refuse to pray. We refuse to call God again. We turn our back to God. We do all of this. We hold grudges. We don't speak to people. We cut people out of our lives. We do all of this. But the second part is what I want us. That's the most interesting. When I was reading this earlier and I saw this, that's why I have to come back for us to discuss this. So the part that I want us to learn from Nehemiah 4:1-4 is he said he fasted and prayed before God of heaven. That's what I want us to learn today. When you hear, and he said, I'm going to do his let's read his prayers. Let's go to 5. And he said, and I said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that kept covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandment. Let thy ear now be attentive and thy eyes open, that my ears be prayed, that he hears his praise. I have to paraphrase. Hear his praise, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servant, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. He's telling us how we have dealt. I want to continue. I want to continue, but I don't want this video to go far. To go longer. That's why I want you to read Nehemiah 4 all the way to 11. Nehemiah 1:4 all the way to 11. So Nehemiah, he prayed, he fasted before God, and he asked him all of these things. I always have to paraphrase because when I'm reading King James version is better, but you have to read with those accents. Sometimes it's hard to get the accent, so I just paraphrase. So I can't read word to word because it's hard to keep the accent. So to paraphrase, he prayed and he reminded God of his promises to his children of Israel. And he reminded God that they have sinned against him, that he needs to forgive them all. His father's house has sinned. He's putting himself in general, even though him personally, he did not sin. He was interceding. Remember my last video, intercede for our brothers and sisters. He prayed, he asked for forgiveness on their behalf. And he asked God to come and give him favor. He asked God to favor him, to hear their prayers. So that's what I want us to learn going forward. I want us, when we hear bad news, I want us, when we mourn, it's okay to mourn. It's okay to weep. It's okay to take time to sit down and think about it. It's okay to take responsibility. Think about it. What did you do that responsibility? Maybe there's a responsibility that you need to take yourself, But the best part that I want us to learn is to pray. Pray about it. Put it in God's hand. Take it to God. Take it in your prayer closet, whatever it is, and say, Lord, I don't know. I have no idea, but this happened. And there's nothing I can do. I don't know what to do. Lord, take it. Handle it. That's what I want us to do. When you mourn and fast, it's not up to you to judge or to hold grudge or to cut people off. It's not up to you to be the avenger, to avenge. It's God. God is the ultimate avenger. So I want us to learn when we have a bad news, terrible news. I want us to learn that it's okay to fast. It's okay to mourn and cry. It's okay to take a step back and sit down. But the most important part is to give it to God. Sell it to him. Put it at his capable right hand. He said he can. He said he's able to help us. He said, fear not, I will save you with my rightful right hand. He said to charge all of it, to sell it to him, give it to him. So that's what I want us to learn. Going forward, next time, I want us that next time you hear a good news, a terrible news, no matter how bad it is, it's okay to mourn. It's okay to cry, but cry the positive cry. It's okay. I want us to fast and pray and give it into God. Put it in God's hands and let God do it for you. Let God handle it for you. So the second example, I want us to go to 2 Kings 4, verse 8. I want you to start from verse 8. That's where the story starts from. This is where Elisha, a woman who made a room for Elijah because she realized that Elisha was a man of God. So she made a room for Elisha to stay in his house, in her house. She told her husband, and they made a room for Elijah. So Elijah and his servant, they were staying in this woman's house, and Elijah wanted to do something good for this woman. So he asked his servant, what can I do for her? So they called the woman, and the woman said, I don't really need anything. I'm just doing it I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I'm just doing it for you because you are men of God. I'm just doing this, no string attached. I'm just doing something for God. I'm just helping you. I'm not asking for anything. I don't want anything. And Elisha asked his servant, what can he do for this woman? And Elisha said, well, this woman doesn't have a child. They're older. Him and her husband, they have no child. So Elijah called this woman and said, this time next year, you are going to conceive a boy. And this woman said, don't lie to me. I didn't ask for, you know what I mean? So, and what Elijah said happened. She had a son. And she had a son. And one day the son was with the father and he started feeling sick. And they took her to the child, to the mother. And then he was there. And then by noon, this child dies. This child that God gave to her, she didn't even ask for it. Just like that, the child dies. And what did this woman do? This woman took the dead child. Elijah was not there. Elijah was on a mountain somewhere doing his thing. So this woman took the baby, the dead child. He put it in Elijah's bed. That child, she put it in Elijah's bed and told her son, her husband, she sent to tell her husband that she's going to see Elijah. And her husband asked, why are you going to see the man of God today? Why are you going? She just responded to her. This is what I want you to listen to. She responded. She said, it shall be well. So the husband is asking, because she sent to her husband, telling her husband that she's going to see Elijah today. She needs a car. She needs a driver to take her to Elijah. And the husband was like, why are you going to see Elijah? Because remember, the child dies. She didn't tell her husband. Because she didn't tell her husband because the husband can't do anything about this dead child. She knows somebody who can do something about this dead child. So she's going to see the person who can do something about the dead child. which is Elijah. So I want you to stay with me. So I want us to learn something about this. When the child died, if it was just normal person, we'll start crying and call she would have called her husband. You know how we react. Oh, my child is dead. You know, everybody will come and everything will just messed up. But this woman, I want us to learn her behavior, what she did, the way she acted. She put the child in the room of the servant she knows can do something. She knows this child is dead, no life. But she put back, because she had faith, she put this child in his bed and asked her husband, send me a driver. I'm, in 2025, send me the driver, because they were rich. Send me a driver. I need to go see this man. And he asked, why? Why are you going today? Today, normally you don't go today. She said, it shall be well. She didn't tell the husband, oh, the child died. No, she just said, it shall be well. Would you do that? Your child just died. Would you just tell your husband, it shall be well? That's what I want us to learn. That's why I'm asking, how do we react when something bad happens to us? She said, it shall be well. And she gave a direction to the driver, because paraphrase in 2025, right? Give a direction to the driver. When we are going, don't stop on the way. You don't stop on the way. You don't greet anybody. You don't say, because when she's going on their way and people will distract them, there's distraction, and then she might end up crying, start crying, or say something to somebody, and then negativity, everything will fall. No, she said, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to start on my way. I want to go directly to the person who can do something about my child. And when she even got there, the servant, Elijah saw and sent his servant to ask her, is everything okay? The servant came and asked her, is everything okay? She said, everything okay. She said, yes, everything is okay. She was, to her, everything was okay until she saw when she came close to Elisha, she fell on Elisha and started crying. Because she know her husband could not do anything. The servant will not do anything. The one person who can do anything is the one that she was vulnerable. She gave up. She cried at the one person who can do something. So I'm saying this to say that we need, when something terrible happens to us, we need to go to the source, the person who can do something for us, which is God. Somebody, the person who can change the circumstance, somebody who can change the situation, somebody who can heal, somebody who can deliver us, somebody who has the power to turn this situation around. We're supposed to be going to that person instead of somebody else, other people, instead of crying and giving up and struggling and taking the matters in our own hands. So when Elisha, when she cried and told him and everything, long story short, I want you to read the whole, 2 Kings 4. I want you to read the whole thing. When she said all of this, when she cried to Elijah at the end of the day, the end of this, Elijah came back and resurrected her son. Her son was resurrected. You know what I mean? So that's what I want us to learn today. I want us to learn to change the way we receive bad news. We receive things that happen to us, the way we react to it. I want us to learn that even as terrible as it seems, as evil as it is, as impossible as it is, we can't do anything about it. But God can do something. So instead of taking things in our own hands, instead of going to the wrong people, instead of going about it the wrong way, instead of blocking people, distracting, instead of taking things in our own hands, we need to go to God and give it to him. We need to go to the one person who can take care of it. The one person who can move mountains. The one person who's the creator of life. The one person who can give life and take life. The one person who can resurrect the dead. The one person who can transform the situation. The one person who can turn bad into good and turn darkness into light. So that's my point here. So I'm using this. I really want you to read. It is amazing. It's amazing. So I want you to read 2 Kings 4. I want you to read it and read this story. Just like I'm talking to you, there's another story in 2 Kings. This 2 Kings 4, we have to put it on a second video. But I just want I want to change the way, I want to help you, to encourage you to change the way you receive bad news or whatever news you take. things that happens to us, the way we deal with the things that happen to us in our lives. Because even though this child was given to her by God, she didn't ask for it. She went to Elisha. She said, remember, I told you not to lie to me. Remember, I told you I did not ask for this. You give me this child. Now this child dies. And she was saying it to the person who gave her the child. The person who gave her the child, she knew that if you get me this child, you are able to resurrect the child. You are able to do something. So she went to the source, the right source. And when she did, she got the answer. Even before the husband, they didn't write about that in the Bible. But the husband, the next time the husband see the child, the child was still living. The husband didn't even know the child was dead. I'm sure she told him later. The husband probably would not even believe it. You know what I mean? She took care of the problem. How did she take care of it? She took care of it by giving it to the person who can help, the person who can give her a solution. And she got the solution. So I want to encourage us that going forward, let us change our mentality. Let us change the way we see things that happens in our lives. The way we see things, the way we accept it, the way that we react to things that happens in our lives. I want to encourage that today. I want to encourage somebody somewhere that whatever happens in our lives, no matter how bad, no matter how terrible, there is a solution. There's a reason. There is a solution and there's a reason for anything and everything that happens in our lives. And most of the time, the way we behave, it makes the situation worse. The way we behave is what makes the situation worse. The way we take it in our own hands, we want to handle it ourselves. That's what makes the situation worse. So I am telling us today that sometimes the way we handle the situation is why the situation gets worse. But if we change our mentality and whatever happens, we just thank God. We just glorify God anyway. We take it to him. We let him handle it because he knows why it happened. Because believe it or not, anything and everything that happens in our lives, if it's a bad thing, God allowed it to happen. If it's a good thing, God allowed it to happen. Because Satan cannot do anything in our lives unless God allowed it to happen. Satan cannot do anything in our lives. Remember the story of Job. Job, everything that happens to Job is because God allowed it to happen. So, because if we know that he's the one who allowed it to happen, we have to change our mentality, the way we receive it, the way we react to it. The way we react to it is the best thing, the way this woman reacted to it, the way Nehemiah reacted to it. Nehemiah went to God and said, yes, I know this is terrible. This is terrible, but you have control. You know you can do only you can do something about it. So we have to change the way we perceive, we receive, we react to things that happens in our lives. Because I never believe that things happen in my life as a coincidence. No, there's always a reason. There's always a reason. Even if it's just Satan, purely Satan, God allowed it to happen to teach you something, to help you, to do something, for you to react differently, for you to come to him, for you to trust him, for you to put it in his hands, for you to recognize that you can't do it without him. There's always a reason. So I want to encourage us today to change the way we react to the things, bad news that comes in our lives, things that happens in our lives. Let us change it. Instead of controlling it, instead of wanting to control it, instead of taking it in our own hands, let's take it to the source. Let's take it to the one person who can actually change it, transform it, and make it what it's supposed to be and transform it. Because God can transform bad news into good news. It is written in the Bible. He can turn darkness into light. He can resurrect the dead. He did it. He can change unchangeable. He can move mountains. He can make your cancer, your issues disappear. He can do it. So I want us to learn today. I want us to change the way we react to things that happen to us. We need to change our mentality. We need to trust in God. We need to take it. We need to learn from this woman in 2 Kings verse 4. And we need to learn from Nehemiah 1. We need to learn from them So I want you to meditate. I want to leave you with Nehemiah 1 and 2 King. I want you to meditate on this. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think. All the videos, I want to hear from you. So I want us to share this video with everyone you know. Going forward, what I want you to remember, going forward, I want you to change your mentality of the way you see things, the way you perceive, the way you receive, the way you accept, the way you act to things that happens in your life every day, in your family's life every day. And I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, it will all be well. I promise you, it shall be well. And you will end up saying, it shall be well. I promise you that. So stay safe and blessed, and I'll see you on the next one. But I want to hear from you, and I want you to share with everyone you know. Subscribe to the channel, and also check out the rest of the videos. But until then, stay safe and blessed, and I'll see you on the next one.